on, Impa?
Hey, sorry about that earlier. How
No,
you
no, no
doing?
worries.
You doing all right?
Yeah, yeah, of course. How you doing today?
Doing great, thank you. Hanging out with Delano. So,
Delano, what's up, man?
hey, yeah, man.
All right, so you got a big fight coming up this Friday, but before that, I wanted to just take a little step back and talk about your tenure with the UFC. I just kind of want to hear you reflect on it. What did you learn and how did it help you grow as a fighter and just as a person in general?
Thanks for asking. Thank you for having me on your show. Uh, guys, my time with the UFC was a blessing, right? It was kind of what got everything kicked off. Huge motivating factor, huge inspiration. Of course, you see so many great fighters come through there, and to be a part of that, definitely I'm so grateful for everybody. Dana, Nick, Sean, the whole staff, everybody. That was a really good time. It taught me like that there are high level fighters all over the world, and that I'm meant to be at that level, meant to be in the major leagues, right? Because I started training when I was 24, so my parents put me on the UFC, and within 2 years, then I would go back and get my CPA and be an accountant. And when you have a goal and you set it for yourself, and you have that feeling and believing in yourself, even on the days like negative thoughts try to come in your head, like you know where you're meant to be. And me going in the UFC, that was affirmation, right? So, two and two in there. I learned that, keep my body healthy, staying focused would, definitely help me in certain situations. But I was, it's cool. Like it was like almost like an expedited process to become a professional in all that I do. And now I, capitalizing on it.
So I'm not sure if they really gave you a reason. From my understanding, they usually didn't really give you a reason on, why you're let go. But do you feel like it might have been a little too early? Because sometimes we see guys, they get two losses or they get three losses. Maybe even sometimes they'll get a fourth loss. And you went 2-2, all entertaining fights. Do you think it was just you deserved another chance?
Yeah. So like, if I look at fight wise and like look at it, thinking it logically, it is a fighter. Yeah, I don't believe I should have been released from the UFC, and I believe that at that time, when I look back on it, at that time, I could have been, doing great now. UFC, top 10, top five in the world, depending on how many fights I had. At the same time, too, I'm really grateful that I'm not with the UFC. Not that I have anything against them. I'm just like, for the fighter that I am, for the person that I am, the way that I love to stay active and fight. And that was challenging for the UFC, too. From their perspective, because people hear about this, it's hard for them to get me fights. People will turn it down, people say ready, they say yes. It was like, became frustrating, too, for me, because I wasn't mature enough at that time, my personal life or in my professional life to understand why people would turn to fights, right? So I get it, and it was one of those things I'm like, yeah, I know I could have been in the UFC for a while now, but maybe I'd still be waiting every single other year to fight three fights. And now with PFL opportunity, I can fight four times this year, be five times this year, but every year before, and keep building up. And hey, maybe I'll be able to fight two weight classes in PFL, so get eight fights. I love to fight. I love to stay active, and um, it's been like I know this is meant for me. So maybe by the world, we look at it through those eyes. But when I say I look at everything through a spiritual eye, through God's eyes too, like the way He showed me, maybe I wasn't just meant to be in the UFC anymore, and that He had a better plan for me that I didn't understand then, but I'm starting to understand it right now. So I'm grateful for all of that. I knew I had to go through that to get where I'm going, and and it had its purpose in my life. And if it was God's plan for me to go back, cool. Like I'm grateful, but I know I'm meant to do where I am.
So last thing before we get into the PFL, last July you get a big win against a very dangerous opponent in Jared Gordon. You know, how did it feel just to get back in the win column? Because I know you weren't one of those guys who didn't win for 4 years or anything crazy like that, but there was a lot that changed since the last time you had won after before beating Jared Gordon. So what did it feel like just to get that relief and get back in the win column?
Yeah, I mean, I was knew who I was. The Eagle fight, I won that fight. They said off that split. Yeah, and I look at it like that. It's whatever. Like it's like who you seek validation from, right? But then when to finish the fight in the way that I did, and get that dominant victory against a dangerous opponent, right? Against a guy who's been around the block, who's 28 years old. People might think Jared Gooden's an old guy, but he's actually 28, I believe. Damn, little 1 year older than him, but he has like almost 30 fights. And even if he fought people who are okay or not, whatever, he's got 30 fights and he's been in there. He's been sparring that long and training that long. And to me, that was confirmation, affirmation that like having great training partners like Delano, Jason Jackson, goodness gracious, Aaron Jeffrey, Phil Hawes, Linton, just I can go through the whole list of people that I train with on a daily basis, right? Like the coaches that I have, that I'm at the right place, and that when I beat up a guy who's a dangerous, lethal fighter like Jared, and I finish him the way that I did, I know that there's so much more in me, and I'm gonna continue to show that. So it felt great. The relief was more saying, okay, God, like this is I know who I am, and it's correct. Like, sometimes you just gotta go, like Coach Jones said, sometimes you have to go through a little bit of mud and rain to grow. That's what that time was, and now it's time to go do what I do.
And so, considering you're doing what you do this Friday, PFL Challenger Series, no disrespect to your opponent, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce his last name, but Osama El Siadi, we'll stick with that. What do you know about him, and what do you expect from him?
And Simon, he's a solid fighter. He's a game. He's fought some guys even on the regional scene over in the United Arab Emirates, and was it Brave. He won that. He did really well there. Had a pretty cool team kick, very cool, team kick finish last fight. Solid grappling. He finds different. He's not afraid to take different shots in the fights, or different chances in the fights. Like he's been doing his thing, and I'm honored that I'm gonna fight him. And for me, it's one of those things. I know I'm going to go dominate this time and claim this victory. Go do what I do, finish this fight, all that. At the same time, I believe that he'll have an excellent. It's just sometimes you got to meet certain people along the way and hope you can.
And so I'm like a journalist, writer. I don't like to even pretend that I'm any type of fight analyst, but just seeing Osama, he seems like the type of fighter. He doesn't kind of have the same experience as you, and a lot of his fights are by finish. So do you think this is one of those situations where you kind of just have to grind him out, and eventually he'll start to fade away?
And it's also too like people finish a lot of guys that like not saying that the people he fought weren't good fighters, right? Sometimes you fight people and people get these fights where they almost get a false sense of security, right? A false sense of reality too. Like they get a false sense of security in themselves, and they get a false sense of reality in who the fighters that they fight are. I'm not the people that he's fought. You can say I'd rather get a bunch of decisions against guys who are killers than to get finishes against guys who are just there. Right? And not saying that about all of any of his opponents. All of them. Maybe people are just growing and learning and need the coaching and education. But at the same time, too, I mean, I fight how you train, right? And maybe he trains really well, but also to the level he trains. I guarantee there's no better gym in the world than mine. Yeah, like he'll clip like every single day, the partners that I have, the coaches that I have, and that's where it comes to. And then everybody's different, right? Like MMA, people always talk about MMA math. MMA math is weird. Like finish somebody finishes, they don't finish them. This person fights this person beat that person up, but they don't finish a person that person could beat up. Yeah, it's different. And I respectfully say and believe, I'm at a different level than any fighters. Thank God that gave me a talent and gift to fight. And at the same time, I work diligently. I work very hard. And, I work my faith, and I'm a different fighter. And I'm looking forward to showing that on Friday. Grinding him out. It's not about him necessarily. It's about who I am, right? What I choose to do, implementing what I do. Grind him out. That's fun to be tough. It's fun to be person that like that gritty person. I know I can. I believe I'll just go out there and dominate and impose my will from the get go. So that's my focus. I think that's better than me just showing he's a tough guy and things like that. And it gets down to it and it gets bloody. I love that too.
And so every time I interview somebody going on the PFL Challenger Series, there's two different responses to the whole, contract aspect of it. Some people say, I got to go out there. I got to get, an exciting finish to get that contract. Other people say, you know what? I'm just going to go out there and show the best version of myself that I can be. And if they want me, they'll take me. How do you see that? I don't even know if I'd say added pressure, but that element that you could win, but still leave there without what you're looking for.
And I've been there before and everything worked out. When I first fought the Contender Series, I beat the top prospect in the world at the time. And, nobody knew who I was. I was a pro. I became pro that year. I had 5 fights and I had 6 fights in 6 months, but I had 5 fights already by the time, by my 6th month of being a pro. And people didn't know who I was at the time. And it was okay. And, I learned a lot from that guy because, he was very arrogant, very cocky. And I don't think he was really putting the work in every single aspect of his martial arts. So it's something I carry over into this fight. Like I know I'm a guy that they're promoting. I know that they're a guy that they're really pushing, and I'm grateful. At the same time, I know that I still need to go do my job and go to work. So I don't overlook Osama by any stretch of the imagination, and I expect him to come bring it too, which I love. Uh Pressure? No, no pressure at all. It's like God's plan, right? I know one thing I need to do is do my job, go dominate this fight, go do what I love, which is fight. You take it one fight at a time. I believe that when I go dominate, do my job, everything works out how it's supposed to, and then I move forward. If it wasn't their plan and it was like a curveball and they didn't give me a contract after claiming the victory, I know that I stand on the victory that I claimed and move forward to better and become a champion where I need to be. I'm so grateful though because PFL has been super supportive. They've been very like promoting me, and I'm truly grateful. Where my validation doesn't come from a win or a loss. Validation really does come from Christ, and that's where I know I've won in life. So now everything else is a bonus. Everything else for me is just like I got one of my best friends in the world, literally right here. It's like that. We keep each other in check. Like when I got released from the UFC, first person outside my family that called me was Delano. You know, and I got to go out there with him to the title fight last year, and now he finished Rory McDonald, right? Like that's really cool. I can be part of great moments like that. And if I was in the UFC at the time, I would have got to share those moments. And those mean something. He's a huge reason I'm here in PFL. He's a huge reason that I'm even getting these opportunities to be in Orlando and train. And it's like God put him in my life, God put me in his life, and I know that there's what pressure is there. Pressure is like pressure is a privilege. Yes, I got to change my family's life to do that. But pressure is like a single mom. Yeah, person who has a kid and you're running around with life, like that's a different pressure. Like there's a pressure to fight. Yeah, like you're how I choose to do this. So that pressure is a privilege. And I get the pressure of just saying, God, are you proud of me? That's a cool place to be. So it gives me freedom, man. I'm really excited and I love that question too. So it's just it's a great place to be and I love it. I live to do what I'm called to do. So that's how I
So, last question about your upcoming fight. Without giving any type of your game plan or anything like that, how do you see this fight playing out?
yeah, I see me dominating, picking my shots early, see me pushing the pace, breaking him early on in the fight. And as I break him down, break him down, break him down, the fight will eventually be won by finish, yeah, dominantly. I get my hand raised and it's a dominant, dominant, dominant victory. And then I keep on making my adjustments and move forward into the season.
And now I know you have someone sitting right next to you that's going to give you plenty of advice once you do get that roster spot. But do you think that you're going to have to change any type of aspects of your training? Because I know you want to stay active, but a lot of people don't realize, the PFL season can be very grueling on a fighter.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always something to change in your training. Like, not so like it's not the big changes, right? It's the little things. Coach Jones always talks about it. It's the little things we bring to practice, where it's like you jump rope and you pick your jump rope up. I believe my attention to detail is something that I'll always continue to grow, right? And that's what's going to help me grow throughout the season. Because let's say I break my hand one fight, I'm not pulling out the season. So I learn how to fight with another hand. So if I'm the more discipline I gain, is the more focus that I gain throughout the season, the more gameness, it opens up opportunities no matter what happens. And just keeping myself healthy. I love to train, I like to get after it. So maybe it's some sessions are more, some sessions are less, but it's always just more so about my recovery to the outside of it, making sure I'm staying focused on my faith in church. As I finish these fights, claim these victories, like keeping myself uh, grounded and seeing everything from that perspective. And I think those are things that ain't changing. I believe we're definitely doing the right things at Kill Cliff and with Coach D at DK Fitness, Jonathan Logan, they live fit. I just like and Dr. Peacock. It's just like making sure that I'm taking care of Impa, taking care of my body, taking care of my life, and being there for my training partners. We're Henry Hooft and all my coaches, like we're on the right path. So sometimes it's not changing so much. It's just about consistently doing what we do at a high level each day.
And so before you mentioned that, if you could, you'd fight in two divisions this year and get 8 fights in. Is that a real possibility? Is that something you've mentioned, or is it kind of just like that mindset you're bringing to the season?
It's both. It's the mindset that I bring into the season, and that also like I would love to fight 8 fights. Like if you know me, then Delano can testify. I love to fight, and I want to fight. Like if there are 6 fights in the regular season, great. If there are 8 fights, and if I could fight 2 weight classes, or if they wanted to start at 85 class, I'd do both. Or if they want to do 85, like what do they call those? one-off fights, super fights, I'm glad to do that too. It's just I mean I love to fight, I love to stay active, and feel like there's a platform where it's happening. Like people, I always think like the fact that we get to do this, the fact that I get the opportunity, the privilege to be on your show and talk to you, like that's really cool for me, right? Like you're a guy who loves what you do. You're a journalist, you're an artist in your own right. You study writing, you study literature, you study what you're doing, and I get to do this and share it with you. So it's like, yeah, I think anything's a possibility, right? And hey, maybe you write the story. They're like, hey, let's challenge me, let's do it, because I'm the one who's I know I'm going to step up and do that. So it's just so cool that I get to do this. So for me, it's like gratitude, right? I'm loving what I get to do. I'm loving the people I get to meet, and I'm enjoying my life. You never know how long you're going to fight for, so or how long you're going to live, on that side, right? So it's like, well, while I'm living, I'm going to get the most out of it all. That's why I love fighting. Whatever the challenge. Yes, you can feel it. That's when I look back when I'm 67 and like, man, I did that.
It's the last question I have about the PFL. I'm sure you're locked in about your upcoming opponent, but have you taken a chance to look at some of the guys that are going to be in the light heavyweight division? You got Rob Wilkinson, who won last year. You got Amariak Maidov, Antonio Carlos Jr. Have you taken a chance to look at how you might match up against those guys?
But sir, briefly, like I believe it's like school, right? You started chapter one, but you have 20 more chapters to go. So I always like to look ahead, be a great student, and see who's vision. Of course, I never overlook my opponent, like you said. At the same time, there are things I can learn from guys that I would fight, that fighting this opponent as well. So it all goes together. The subjects continue. And yeah, I mean, I think Rob Wilkinson will be a great fight. Taylor Santos, you have Christoph, Jocko, and now you have Amari, guys who people who always present different challenges, people who have different um, skill sets, strengths, weaknesses, right? And it's about being a better fighter. So I'm definitely looked ahead. I know, where I see myself going. And this time, I'm staying focused on the present moment. It's like you're on a warpath, so there are different places you're going to fight, right? So maybe something you're fighting in the swamps in the marsh, and then another day you're fighting in the mountains. So you have to prepare ahead. At the same time, you still must focus on the battle at hand.
And so, last question I have for you today. I saw on your Instagram that you have a separate account just for all your traveling, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you get to do a lot of that in MMA. Recently, I just started traveling, and it's just such an awesome and blessing experience to have. I just wanted to hear, why you started that account, and just your love for traveling in general.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a nomadic person by nature. I love traveling, experiencing new places, meeting new people. I ride a motorcycle a lot, so I'm supposed to go all 50 states, 3 countries this year. Whether it's after the season, during the season, or before, or later on in the year. I just, it's like there's so many kids who watch what we do, people who love what we do, and even grown people, right? Everybody who just loves traveling, and sometimes they don't get that opportunity. I am truly blessed that I get to do what I love for a living, while at the same time I know people support it. That might be their escape, and I said, why not share it with them? Why not share the different places around the world? And it might inspire somebody's kid to be a travel blogger, do different things. I did some reporting and thinking release here shortly after the fight, and uh, it's cool because I get to share these moments with other people while still enjoying it myself. And I really just started to kind of fun to share. So it grows that way.
And that's all I have for you today, man. I really appreciate your time, and I hope for all the best for you this Friday.
Man, thanks again. Thank you for having me on.
Hope you have a great rest of your day.